Hello everybody, welcome to this talk on Green to Green. So we have Mr. Gauranga from the GOVARDHAN ECOVILLAGE, which is a model community that's based on this principle of sustainable living and putting into practice what we believe in. So it's basically a foundation of this principle is that there is, as Mahatma Gandhi said, there is enough for everybody's need, but there's not enough for everybody's greed. So if you have a lifestyle that's based on satisfying the basic needs of human being and be able to live a healthy, happy life of a sustainable nature, so that's the best gift we can do for our future generations. So based on this principle, the GOVARDHAN ECOVILLAGE started like 10 years back, and they went way ahead in terms of technologies to implement a sustainable living. So, and Gauranga Das is a metallurgical engineer from the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology, and he's the director of this project. We're very happy here that he's here at Google to give us a talk on some of the technologies as well as any other questions you may have. So we'll have the presentation for about like 40 minutes and then open up for questions at the end. So with that, let's give a big hand to welcome Mr. Gauranga Das.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of GOVARDHAN EcoVillage, I'd like to make this presentation, Symbiotic Recycling at GOVARDHAN EcoVillage. So we have a 75-acre property, and we're trying to showcase solutions to 4 issues: food, water, energy, and waste. So we have tried out some interesting methods to try to provide solutions, and I'm going to share with you some of the things which we have done. As you know, economy, society, and environment, can they go hand in hand? So the current paradigm is that we produce goods, they are used by the industry, used by the population, and then thrown out. What do we do with the wastes? So therefore, with the increase in energy consumption, we find that people are using more energy, creating more waste, and as a result, there is also depletion of water resources. And with depleting resources, increasing wastes, ecological resilience is strained to the utmost limits. And also, even if you want to handle wastes, then the cost is exorbitant. So we found that in the last 100 years, there has been a paradigm shift from decreasing resources to increasing wastes. And as a result, we assume that nature will subsidize the cost of converting the wastes back into resources. So it doesn't happen like that, because only to a certain extent nature will do that. Therefore, ecological resilience trained to a limit is a very interesting feature, because government is spending a tremendous amount of money to bring things under control. But we find that food costs are rising, air pollution is increasing, and we find that the transportation costs been increased. It becomes extremely difficult for solid wastes to be transported, and what to speak of water, which is such a demand, and we find that water is being utilized for more and more activities, and the next crisis is seriously going to be that of water. So considering that, we are trying to figure out what is the root cause analysis of the problem. So we find that the root cause solution, the root cause is the irreversible conversion of resources into wastes. The concept we thought of, if we could devise a system by which the wastes could be converted back into resource, then the problem of increasing waste and decreasing resources could be solved, because we'll have a sustainable loop. Then ecological resilience trained to a limit. If the waste becomes a resource, then you will have a reversible system which is very close to nature, because that's what nature naturally does. And the increasing cost of waste handling would be irrelevant, because your waste is actually becoming a resource. So therefore, waste in definition is an object which neither in partial or totality contributes to the end goal of a system. So we have 2 kinds of waste: immediate waste and delayed waste. And therefore, we were trying to figure out a concept where the waste could actually become the resource for the next system. Then that second system produces a waste that, if it becomes a resource for the third system, then through this methodology, we'll have something called as symbiotic recycling, where every waste is becoming a resource. And in one sense, we are trying to remodel what naturally happens in nature. In nature, we go through this cycle, and this cyclical chain takes one system to the next system in a smooth, seamless fashion. We also find it in the water cycle and in the nitrogen cycle, where seamlessly one system just merges into the other system because the waste of one system becomes a resource for another system. So therefore, in a linear model, what we find is that the resource being consumed converts into waste. So this is a linear resource to trash model, where at the end of all the resources, you are left with a whole lot of wastes, and we do not have any clue how to deal with them. Whereas in a system of symbiotic recycling, instead of the resource being converted to waste as a consumer, the resource actually converts into a waste, and waste 1 becomes resource 2. So it actually becomes a contributor. So we are devising a system by which the consumer is no longer called a consumer, he'll be called a contributor. And therefore, this is the system which we are trying to apply in our eco-village, and I'll share with you the details very soon. So basically, sustainability is defined as the interface between bearability, viability, and equitability when social, environment, and economic factors interface. So when we are discussing the whole concept of sustainability, then human society, if it has to remain for long periods of time, has to be in this operating zone. Therefore, the top 10 problems of the world is global warming, economic collapse, peak oil and energy consumption, urbanization, water crisis, malnutrition, nuclear proliferation, war, terrorism, and loss of biodiversity. And at the eco-village, we try to integrate all of these factors together, and we try to address the issue of global warming by making green buildings and integrating a green waste management system, global economic collapse with rural empowerment, peak oil and energy consumption, energy crisis by using alternative energy and using animals, urbanization and population by rural empowerment, global water crisis with our water conservation and soil biotechnology, which is a green technology for sewage management, which I'll be sharing with you right now, malnutrition and food security issues by using organic agriculture, and loss of biodiversity and species extinction with also organic agriculture. So basically, ours is a community set up in 2003. You must have heard of a place called Mumbai, and 108 kilometers away from Mumbai on the north is the Govardhan Eco-Village. And the concept of GEV is based on sustainable technologies which are very effective in urban, semi-urban, and rural areas. As far as waste is concerned, 4 types of wastes are created in our property. We have animal wastes and food waste. Second is we have dry biodegradable waste like foliage. And then you have non-biodegradable, that is plastics and construction aggregate, and human waste, the black and gray water, etc., which constitute the sewage. So therefore, how do we fit in the puzzle with all of these wastes being put together? So let's spend a few moments on this picture where the entire concept of symbiotic recycling is explained at one glance. So you look at the figure where there is this cow. So the cow eats on the grass and it gives cow dung. Okay, so the input for the cow is the grass. The grass is the fodder for the cow. The output from the cow is the cow dung. So interestingly enough, for many of you who may or may not know, one of the best forms of manure which we have experimented with is made with cow dung. So cow dung is one of the top-notch fertilizers which actually creates such a fertile ground. So if you leave the cow and the earth alone, both will sustain each other. The earth will give grass, the cow will eat the grass, give cow dung, that cow dung will give more grass when it hits the ground. And in this way, both take care of each other perfectly well. It's a sustainable system. But then, you bring in human being. So the human, he wants to live. Okay, so naturally, he cannot live under the sky. So he needs a house to live. Okay, so what do? The human being needs three things: a house to live, a food to eat, energy to stay in. So if you look at this figure, you find a hut. That house is made with mud blocks. So we created 250,000 blocks made out of mud, adding 8% cement, and they are called compressed stabilized earth blocks. It's called a green building. It's called green earth blocks. So when you have buildings which are made out of earth blocks, then it's a breathing wall, and you have very low embodied energy. Okay, so you have created a dwelling place which is as green as possible. But then he also needs food to eat. Okay, so how does the food come? So from the cow dung, you have other kinds of crops which can be grown. So on that cart, what you see is rice. So one of the greatest challenges in India is also to preserve the indigenous varieties of rice. So on our property, we grow 54 varieties of indigenous rice. And you'll be amazed to know that some of those varieties are highly medicinal in property. And simply by consuming those varieties of rice, many of the medical problems can be solved. So therefore, indigenous varieties of rice, but without using harmful chemical pesticides and fertilizers. And with that, the organic farming, you grow this food. So the input for that is the cow dung, the output is the food. Then the food is eaten by the human being. And then what comes out? Now you need the food to be cooked. So how do you use that? So the cow dung again is used in what is known as a biogas plant. So in a biogas plant, cow dung becomes an input. And what comes out is a fuel, and that fuel is used for cooking. And that cooking ultimately cooks the food which the humans can eat. And then after the humans eat that, what comes out is the sewage. So you see on the right side is this rectangular structure. That is the sewage treatment plant, which is known as the soil biotechnology plant. And we'll discuss about that also. But that input for that is the sewage. The sewage comes out and it goes through that sewage technology plant, and what comes out is fish fit water. Fish fit water means water in which fishes can dwell. But it's a completely green sewage technology with hardly any downtime and practically no sound at all. And it is composed of rocks in different layers, geophagous earthworms, and various kinds of bioreactors which generate over 10 million liters of sewage water converted into 10 million liters of fresh water every year. And that output, which is irrigatable water, goes into irrigation. That output becomes the input for the fields. And then again, the same chain continues. So we have, in this way, created a system by which every output is becoming an input, and thus we are regenerating sources of energy which we would not have thought of before. So this is in brief what we are trying to describe. So therefore, food, shelter, energy is required, and what human being generate is waste, sewage, construction waste, and domestic waste. Okay, so fulfilling the human need, the food is there, the grain is there, the milk products is there, and this is the actual pictures of what we are growing there on our plant. We have 100 varieties of mango also. Mango is a fruit which grows very famously in Maharashtra, in that area. So we have sugarcane, rice, pulses, and various kinds of organic fruits. And if you see here, what you see in that nursery bed is certain bricks. That is the construction waste which is utilized for creating permanent raised bed system. So the permanent raised bed system is a technique by which you increase the productivity of organic farming, and we can use all kinds of wastes which are generated from construction for creating that. So we also have an animal farm where we protect all these different kinds of animals, and there is a whole free range available for them to go and graze, and we have created very huge nice facilities for them to feel completely protected and at ease. On a regular basis, every week, all of the community members go and brush these animals, these cows and other animals with brushes, and we have created such a beautiful relationship with them that they feel totally at ease and very, very friendly with anyone who approaches them. And they also give very nice milk. So then we have, as far as food is concerned, that is taken care. Then as far as the accommodation, compressed stabilized earth blocks. So these are some of the guest rooms which we have created with the CSEB, compressed stabilized earth blocks. So basically, it is one portion of cement to 6 portion of sand, and the rest is all, it is 1 cement, 1 mud, and 4 stone dust. The difference between the energy consumed, you can see, 72.3 megajoules per kg versus 0.275 megajoules per kg. A compressed stabilized earth block has such low embodied energy, so you are saving such a major amount of carbon footprint just by deciding not to utilize paint and plaster method for making walls. And thus we find that the energy we use is solar and biogas for cooking. These are some of the solar panels, and what you see on the right hand bottom side is what is known as a biogas plant. You see the bulls moving, so that is known as ADPM, animal driven prime mover. So it is connected to a gear system, and then it helps pump the water out, and that water is utilized for irrigating the fields nearby. And then we have handling of human waste, construction waste, and other construction material in nursery. And basically, recycling the non-biodegradable wastes is done in various ways. We use it for waterproofing of roof in construction, because for waterproofing you need many of these bricks which are broken and not in good shape. They are utilized for waterproofing of the roof. The dust which is generated during construction is used for making agarbatti or incense sticks made out of cow dung. So it's a cow product based small scale industry. Then, as I showed in the picture before, the bricks which are broken down can also be used for making permanent raised bed technology. Then many of these leaves and grasses which are part of biodegradable waste are used for mulching. Mulching is a technique by which you cover the plants around so that they get some kind of fertilizer, and at the same time the moisture which is there is retained. And the plastics and others are also used as, suppose cement bags are generated. So if the cement bags are there, we use them for composting and plant bags. We are reutilizing them that way. And some of the other wastes we use in the walls, for which we make cob. So cob house is actually mud house, but the walls can actually be filled with various kinds of wastes which are around, say bottles or tires or anything can be put inside, and then covered over and plastered with mud. So a lot of wastes are also reutilized in the walls of the cob house. So in this way, we are trying to use the non-biodegradable wastes in this fashion. Then we have the domestic waste and the food and cattle waste and other biodegradable waste. All that is used in composting, because it can be composted and it can be used as manure for agriculture. So the whole community, it is very sensitive to separate all of these wastes, because as you know, the number one principle of waste management is separation at source. And if we do not separate at source, we cannot have a successful waste management plan. So therefore, this composting unit is utilized in organic farming. So it is used in biogas plant, and it comes from cow barn, organic farming, and community kitchen. These are the three sources of giving us animal waste and food waste inputs. So all of these three go into the biogas plant and give energy. The input is from these wastes. The output is energy, which is utilized for cooking. So this is a picture of that. And then we have the last, which is the sewage or the human waste, and that is recycled in what is known as the soil biotechnology plant. And the soil biotechnology plant is actually an IIT Mumbai patented plant. It is created by Dr. Biplav Patnaik, who is one of my classmates from IIT Mumbai. And I knew when he was doing his PhD in 1993-94, in that period. So Professor Shankar and Dr. Biplav Patnaik created this technology. And the principle is very simple. Water, by nature, regenerates. Even you don't drink water for few hours, you feel energy going down. So as soon as you start drinking water, you generate energy. As soon as the plants get water, they start generating. So water is a regenerating medium. Whereas the earth is best for degeneration, because the number of bacteria which are in earth is several hundred times more than the bacteria which is there in water. So therefore, the degradation and degeneration happens more effectively, more efficiently, naturally in earth than in water. So previously, all of the wastes would be actually dumped in the outside, and people would go in the out, and then they would respond to the call of nature. Then we had this flush-driven toilet system. So because of the flush-driven toilet system, we have water as the medium for transporting all of the gray and black water. So as a result, what do you do with all of that waste? So the statistics reveal that very few municipalities all over the world, city councils all over the world, take the trouble of actually processing that waste before they dump it into the ocean. So majority of the times it just goes, because the cost of handling that is enormous. So the thought behind SBT was that since you cannot now tell people to go out, they have to use the toilet. So as far as water-based, gravity-driven sewerage system is concerned, that cannot be replaced. But what if that water which is brought through the sewerage system can finally be processed through a soil-based, earth-based purification system? So it is combining the ancient wisdom of using earth as a purifying medium with the modern usage of the flush toilet system. So then we have what is known as this SBT bioreactor. It goes into the SBT system, the human waste, and output which comes out is fish fit water, which is used for nursery and landscaping. Okay, so basically the SBT is very powerful system. Why? Because septic tank based system is many times it creates foul odor and it clogs, and then it spills over and creates lot of difficulties in rural areas especially. So here, when we have an SBT based system, so we have at least 10 million liter of water to be used for irrigation. Number two, the solid waste, it also creates photosynthetic biomass for internal use, which is like manure. So basically, this is how a schematic looks like. This is the stage 1 of the SBT system, where from the last manhole, then the pipe comes in. Then you see those two perforated screens that separates the solid waste from the liquid. And then the liquid comes and goes on a settling tank, and the overflow goes into the next tank, which is called the collection tank. From the collection tank, through a transfer pump, it is fed in through the feed lines into the SBT bioreactor unit. So you see those rocks, they appear as hard rocks, but they're not hard rocks. When you have earth or mud, which is hardened over a period of time naturally, then it has a fantastic phenomenon of being hard, but at the same time it is porous. It is porous because it allows the water to flow through. At the same time, even if water flows through, it will not disintegrate like regular mud. It will not flow with the mud. So that is one of the secrets of this plant. And along with that, you add geophagous earthworms who have a natural tendency of purifying and converting. So then along with that, you have specific kinds of plants which you grow in that. And when you do that, what comes out is this fish fit water, and this is how the SBT unit looks like. If you look at it from outside, this is a sewage treatment plant. It looks like a garden. These are the papayas which are grown there. And you know, there is a whole discussion going on that these papayas look bigger than the normal. They are well fed, powerful looking. And you see in the bottle, it's the purified water, which is completely clear. So impact assessment, if you see that as far as treatment is concerned, sludge handling is concerned, aeration is concerned, the SBT, the soil biotechnology, scores over the conventional unit, hands down. Why? Because practically no chemical is required for treatment. Sludge handling hardly is required because we have around 2.5 kilometers. No, we have around 2 kilometers of line which come in. And by the time it comes in, the water has already kind of taken care of all of the solid waste. So what comes out is like a liquid slurry. So sludge handling is hardly there. And thirdly, as far as aeration is concerned, there is no requirement for aeration because it's a simple gravity-driven, earth-based, rock-based system. So there is no need for aeration. So there is no need for high mechanization. There is no downtime required. There is no sound created. So it can be installed very close to human dwellings. Because conventional septic tanks and conventional units for STPs, sewage treatment plants, cannot be installed very near where people stay because of the sound it creates for the aeration unit. And so we can see such a low energy expended for 1 liter sewage is less than 0.01 kilowatt hour. So these are some of the advantages. It's sustainable, ease of installation, recovery efficiency. We practically recover 95% of the water. And we are, as I said, 10 million liters of fresh water we are generating. And it's power saving. And also, we have this biomass, flowers, biofertilizers. And we have a whole garden which is created around that. So flowers and fruits are generated also along with that. The BOD, the COD, the units, if you compare, it's very, very low. You can see that. The standard specification is maximum 250. So in December 2012 and Jan 2013 when we began, we had some of these figures. So you can see the treated water is 42 and 38, right? Chemically oxidized. And then BOD. So biological also, it's 18 and 16, which is much less than the standard specification. Suspended solids are very less. And total dissolved solids, which also came out to be extremely low. Standard specification is 2100. Here we had 402. So overall, we have found that this symbiotic recycling has turned out to be great. As far as cost is concerned, we are recovering the cost and we are saving a lot on energy. We are saving on the monthly costs and net savings. And in this way, we can see that value created by SBT is also tremendous, because it saves us around 35,000 rupees per annum on the water being generated and 2 million tons of biomass. And what to speak of the cow products, which are produced as a result of the wastes created from the cow dung. And this is a 10 million liter pond. You see, the mountains behind are called the Sahyadri mountain ranges. It's one of the top biodiversity hotspots in the world. The monsoons hit against that. Now it's lashing like anything. July to September, you'll get 3,000 millimeters of rain. London gets around 500 to 600. So in this 3 to 4 months, the amount of rain which falls, so we need to conserve that. Because as you know, India's population is 1.2 billion, out of which 820 million live in villages. And villages very much live upon water. So therefore, if we create a model by which we show an ideal example of water conservation, it can transform the landscape of the country. So the step one in doing this water conservation is what is known as hydrogeological survey. So there is a firm called Aquadam in Pune, and we employed them, and they did a complete hydrogeological survey, which means they show the movement of the groundwater under your property, and they show the potential movement of the rainwater once the rain hits, depending on the topography of the land. So it costs a little bit to do this survey, but once you do that, you have a very accurate estimate of where you must try to conserve the rainwater and where you should dig the wells. And this water conservation is closely connected to organic farming. Why? Because one of the major culprits for groundwater contamination is fertilizers and insecticides. And when the rains fall, then the rains percolate down into the groundwater and pollute the aquifers. And when the overflow comes through, it pollutes all the rivers and the ponds. All of this rainwater carries the insecticides and the pesticides with them. So if we think that we can separate water conservation from farming, it is not possible. Because what we use as fertilizers, pesticides, and insecticides in our organic farming will ultimately come back in the form of contaminated groundwater. So therefore, we partnered with the government of Maharashtra, and we had a geomembrane laid in this particular patch of land. And according to the hydrogeological survey, this place was shown to be the best for conserving the water. So the water hits against the mountains, flows down the mountains, and this 10 million liters water is filled up in 3 days of rainfall. In 3 days of rainfall, it is full and overflowing, and then we have created a channel through which it goes further. And then we have created, this is actually what you call as a rainwater harvesting unit. Then you have another unit which is called percolation tank, by which we allow the rainwater to go through the earth down and regenerate the aquifers. So all of the extra water from here goes into the other pond, and then that pond actually percolates down. And overall, in the last 4 years, we have seen that our groundwater levels have come up by 3 feet because of continuous percolation. So in this way, we can see that the linear systems prove to be injurious, costlier, and inadequate. Symbiotic systems are more efficient, and these systems which are implemented in GEV can be scaled up. And we are already in dialogue with FICCI, which is Federation of Indian Chamber Commerce and Industry, and CII, Chamber of Indian Industries, and also the government of Maharashtra. And we are trying ways and means by which this can be scaled up, and the example can be utilized in various other places. We have tried it to great success, and it is up to the government and the corporate agencies to utilize their resources to scale it up for the help of society. And the SBT is definitely a quite green and more effective than any other system. So these are some of the thoughts on Govardhan Eco-Village symbiotic recycling. Thank you.
Do you have a sense of how large a community this can be scaled up to, or is that entirely dependent on the geography?
Basically, there is a certain thumb rule as far as community is concerned. Say for 75 acres, we don't want to go beyond 200 people living in a community, because there is a ratio to the amount of food and the milk and the grazing land and things like that. Ideally, for the cows, you require very high degrees of grazing land, but we are next to a forest area, an open range, and next to the mountains, so we can afford that. But then, we have to be very sure that we can't go on unlimitedly scaling up. So the number of people and the number of hard construction you do on a particular piece of land should be very sensitively designed, and that will depend very much on the local topography. So we are living in a very high rainfall area, and we are in zone 3. And also we have we have what is known as black soil. So the black soil is something which is very clayey, and so the foundations which we require to build are quite deep. So therefore the intervention in the earth is much more than regular. So we have to be very sensitive how much we can actually build. So at this stage, we have kind of reached our limits of development as far as our land is concerned.
Have you worked with the SBD separately from the whole solution? It sounds like something that could be implemented as just one component in other communities, and if so, again, how large would you be able to scale that?
Yeah. So if you Google SBT, then you will find all the works of Professor Shankar and some of the places they have installed. So this company which Biplav runs, my friend Biplav Patnaik runs, is called Lifelink Solutions. And Professor Shankar, he installed first in Bombay Municipal Corporation. So very much the city of Mumbai also installed part of that. One of the issues in the initial days was processing of chemical wastes. So they ran into issues with that. But now, after several years of scaling up and tweaking that system, currently they claim that they have dealt with it. And they are kind of confident of dealing with any kind of waste. So in one sense, in our community, it's kind of easier because we have certain protocols on not using chemical-based soaps and other kinds of stuff. So if you have a lifestyle paradigm which is connected to this, it becomes much easier. But still, I met some of the new vendors of the SBT, and they claim that they're ready for even direct chemical plants. So, but I personally have no experience, but looks like they have taken care of that. But probably you'll find more information on the net. But as far as we are concerned, it's definitely, we installed in 2011, now in 3 years, practically zero maintenance. Just we have one guy who just takes care of it. His job is to switch on the pump, switch off the pump, do a little bit of cleaning here and there. He grows his own farm there. He eats better food than many of us. So it's pretty impressive.
I guess my question is, what are the cultural requirements for this to work? Because I'm trying to think, how would you, could you transpose this into the rural Midwest or something like that? And I'm skeptical. So what aspects of the human culture do you think are required?
I think a deep sense of compassion and care for Mother Earth. If you have a deep feeling that we need to be sensitive, because when you care for someone, you are sensitive towards them. So if I feel that I care for Mother Earth, I want to be sensitive towards Mother Earth. And therefore, naturally, when you begin from that point, then all your priorities, all your plannings, all your implementation will then flow from there. So I think the concept basically is care. So taking that as the foundational principle, I think the implementation of this can be global. Probably the details may vary as far as, some of the types of construction you may make, or the kinds of food you may grow, or the kinds of animal you may take care. The details may differ, but in principle we are dealing with 4 things, as I said: food, water, energy, and waste. And we are showing how we can integrate all of this, because as soon as human beings come, they create waste. But how we combine all of this in such a way that the waste becomes a resource. So therefore, the details may differ based on the geography, based on the particular situation, the biodiversity of that place, the climatic zone in which it is, the earthquake zone in which it is. So probably some of the construction materials we use there may not apply here. But still, the whole idea is green construction. Right? The idea is low energy construction. And methodologies can be worked out based on the particular place. But the 2 concepts which I want to emphasize is care. And based on the principle of care, then we actually implement something sustainable. So why not? So we have the website called ecovillage.org.in. So you can visit the website ecovillage.org.in. If you just type ecovillage, it will come on the front.
So how receptive have local governments been to this system? What are the major difficulties that you've encountered in dealing with governments and trying to get them to subscribe to this type of system and implement it?
Yeah. One of the biggest problems is just you begin from food only. Okay, as soon as you come to food, then as soon as you say organic, then you have all these giants who are selling tons and tons of pesticides, fertilizers, importing them into India, and then it's a whole lobby, you know. So as soon as you say organic, then there is an existing lobby which is based on a huge turnover, that it's not so easy to push the organic part. Although the government within their initiatives, they have schemes for promoting organic farming, but then within the bureaucracy and within the ministers, then there is such a kind of integrated working with all these foreign firms and other kinds of firms within India who have vested interests in selling those insecticides, pesticides and fertilizers, that they may say something, but to what extent the implementation is really genuine becomes questionable. Number two, it is not that organic farming is so simple also, right? Just I'll give you an example. One of the kind of fertilizers we use is using cow dung. Now what the cow does is goes and eats at various places. So there are some kinds of insects the cow eats, which is locally found there. And the insect has a peculiar behavior that once it goes into the cow's stomach, it doesn't die, but it just kind of survives. It goes into kind of hibernation. And then when it comes out with the cow dung, it is still there. So then you use the cow dung as manure, but then when it comes in contact with the grasses and the plants, then that insects, again it starts becoming active. Then that insect starts eating the plant. So we are using the cow dung as a manure, but the cow dung has sometimes these insects which act against the interests of what we are trying. So these are just some examples I'm telling you, that it is not always so simple. Even for, suppose, a lawn, a simple lawn. You just put urea, the lawn will look like green and fresh and everything. You try to use the organic method, you have to have patience. You have to spend a lot of time. So therefore, with patience, with some kind of understanding that yes, there may be some difficulties, but we'll stick to it. If you don't have that kind of principle-based approach, then one may become impatient after some time and then say, oh, forget it. Let's put something in and get it going. So that's one of the elements which we have experienced. So therefore, when you are talking of a statewide or a nationwide implementation by the government agencies, you can understand that, it's not so easy to be patient and just wait and watch. And we are talking of reversing a trend which has been so deeply rooted for several decades. So it's not going to be also so easy. Therefore, I call it creating islands of excellence in an ocean of chaos. So when you create islands of excellence, so probably it will stand out and be noticed, and then probably others will be inspired. And, in a small way, we can try our effort to create a better place. Okay? Thank you so much. So I would now
you want to start that video?
Share that video. Thank you. So this video was made by Julie from New York City. She was so inspired when she saw the eco-village. And Robin Simon from Hollywood, she came along with her crew. And one of the Jeevan Mukti teachers, Sharon Gannon, was there at that time. They actually videoed. They took 1 and 1.5 hours of film actually, but 7 minutes, just a promo is here.
Govardhan Eco-Village is about 2.5 hours northeast of Mumbai in a very beautiful rural village area of Maharashtra. There's a very holy place in India which is considered most sacred to devotees of Krishna. It's called Vrindavan. And In that Vrindavan is a mountain named Govardhan, which represents environmental, ecological harmony with spiritual principles.
This place is very special. Certainly it's unique in India and perhaps unique in the whole world. It's like a retreat center. It's like a spa. It's like an ashram. It's a place that's designed as an experiment to merge environmentalism, animal rights, and bhakti, spirituality, together, and it's working.
Come dance with me.
The amenities here are of a whole nother caliber. People, when they think of the words India and ashram, they think of harsh and rough living. From the Ayurvedic clinic, which not only gives treatments, but also has an Ayurvedic doctor who helps prescribe something that is specific for your dosha. The atmosphere that is created by the founder, Radhanath Swami Maharaj, and the atmosphere that is created by the devotees who work here is palpable. You can feel it in the air.
Originally, I was from Chicago. When I was 19 years old in 1970, I wanted to try to broaden my outlook of life. So I went on a journey. Ultimately, I hitchhiked from London to the Himalayas in India. And as I was traveling, I came to realize that the real social and environmental problems of the world are due to a spiritual crisis. A crisis in what we consider is actually meaningful and fulfilling in our life.
Radhanath Swami is a passionate person. The best passion is compassion, and he has an ample amount of that. And that type of passion is contagious.
Coming here and helping to, doing the seva, the service, helping with the cows, helping with to weave mats, helping with make pottery. It's actually fun. It's very simple lifestyle, and I think a lot of us crave that on different levels.
And it's sort of programmed into our culture that you look for recognition. You need it. For me, being here, I see it's far more powerful to be humble.
It was easy to complain about the tiny inconveniences that come with a New York City apartment. Oh, it's not big enough. Oh, the water pressure isn't great enough. When you live in a house that you see built from the ground up, every step along the way, it's very special.
When people come here, we're trying to inspire an educational, experiential alternative of a fulfilling, meaningful, sustainable, healthy life.
Apart from these jasmine flowers which you're seeing, he grows a lot of these ladyfingers, okra. Yeah. So we network with all these farmers so that we purchase them in our kitchen and use them.
Can we get this to the kitchen? We can give them to the,
And the inspiration of this project, Srila Prabhupada, he called this transformation simple living and high thinking.
We get 3,000 millimeters of rain annually. So the rainwater hits against those mountains, the Sahyadri mountain ranges, and flows down and collects here. And it is sufficient water for us to irrigate our fields for up to 6 to 7 months every year. The majority of India's population, which is 1.2 billion, lives in the villages. So one of the very important requirements to develop a village is how can water be conserved.
The process begins here. As you can see, the raw sewage is falling and there are some screens. The first chamber is called screen chamber, where we are trying to separate floating solids. This is the raw water where we began, and this is the treated water.
The uniqueness of this place comes from the fact that every waste is becoming a precious resource. That cow dung becomes a fertilizer for earth. He needs fire or energy for cooking his food, and therefore all of the cow dung we utilize for biogas plant. We need to make houses, so we use the same earth, and we have created 250,000 bricks. We call this a symbiotic recycling model. Flushing your toilet, you are contributing to the growth of a papaya. You are contributing to the growth of flowers.
One of the greatest management gurus says that the greatest management challenge of the 21st century is managing oneself.
Many corporate heads are having seminars and retreats here. And they also see alternative ways by which they could focus their own corporations and feel a real sense of responsibility to humanity.
The thing I'm most compelled to do when I get home is really a seva. It's service. It gets us out of being so self-absorbed.
I always had too much, and now I want to have a simple life, like here. I love simple life, and my goal is to make a simple life in my home.
And if we just refocus our energies with these values, we could transform the world.
Every step that I take, you dance with
It's truly a miraculous, magical place on this planet.